Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm really excited to see what the runes have to say for this week ahead. I will say that we just started some interesting energy. So we just entered into eclipse season yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So eclipse season basically is going to be when the moon's energy is of course going to be conjunct the sun's energy, right? We have a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse that are upcoming in the next few months, and they're going to be taking place in the signs of Taurus and Scorpio respectively, if I'm not mistaken. And the energy behind that is also connected to the lunar nodes, right? So the lunar nodes are pretty interesting. I know they are not quite well known, but they're starting to be more well known in the astrological community and in communities at large, which I think is really cool. They have been well documented and well known also in the sidereal system, which is pretty cool. But the idea behind the lunar nodes, or how I relate to them, and hopefully it may help you guys, the lunar nodes are associated with our past and our future selves, right? Because time isn't what we really think it to be. It's not quite linear, right? So our past is always here in the present just as much as our future is always here in the present. And they are interwoven with each other. In the Nordic tradition, there is an idea behind this that's quite similar, a similar concept that revolves around the Norns, or the three fates, right? Which is something that you see in other traditions as well, such as the Greek tradition, which has a lot to do with the Greek three fates as well. But if you hear construction outside, they're still working on the giant so sorry about that. But yeah, so the idea is that there is continuity between the present, the past, and the future, and that each one of them is woven into each other inextricably. And time doesn't happen linearly, but it happens in waves. It happens in oscillations. Time is a perspective in some ways, right? It's the way in which we observe the movement of matter through space, which I think is pretty cool. So how does this relate to the lunar nodes, as I give a mini TED talk? So our lunar node is, our south node is our past, our north node is our future, right? There is deep energy right now. The nodes where they are right now, we have the south node in Scorpio, if I'm not mistaken, and the north node in Taurus, right? So lots of power, lots of energy along the axis of fixed femininity, through the water energy and through the earth energy, right? So for those of us who are Tauruses or are Scorpios, or have any Taurus or Scorpios in your placements, or if you're going to be a sign that is influenced by Venus or influenced by Mars, it's going to be a lot of energy involved with you guys in the next couple months. So all of that to say is that I woke up this morning, took a shower, and in the shower I felt this strange heaviness, but underneath the heaviness, especially around the heart, there was this feeling of fulfillment and joy and hopefulness and this blossoming. It's almost as if like a tulip was pushing the last push through the dirt before it comes up, and it's like, I'm here, right? A kind of it's darkest before dawn energy, if that resonates with any of you guys. So I already feel that this week has some interesting things in store for us. We'll be starting it off, I feel, in a low energy, is what I hear. We will need to find spaces of rest, of being able to acknowledge our emotions as they come, right? Because oftentimes I feel like some responses that we may have to this feeling of, this heavy feeling that we might be experiencing at this time, some responses may be to immediately go do work, or to try and be productive, or to like jump into the next project, right? And it's time to embrace our emotions as they come, rather than trying to force them to the boxes that we want them to be in, if that makes sense. So let's see what the runes have to say for this week ahead, which is April 27th. 27th. Into next week. Let's see. the journey, my friends. It's the journey. It is the journey. Because the song that came up while I was preparing and tossing the runes was from The Lord of the Rings, of course, because you know, you guys who watch the channel, you know I'm a fan. But what I felt was this, I heard the Pippin song at the end of The Return of the King, I think, question mark? Or perhaps the end of The Two Towers. It's one of those. But he was singing and the lyrics are, you know, home is behind the world ahead. There are many paths to tread, through shadows to the edge of night. This week feels like we're walking to the edge of night. And I know that sounds kind of terrifying. But we also have to keep in mind that the edge of night means the dawn, right? The edge of night means an openness to something new, a refreshing beginning, right? But we are walking there. We are going towards the edge of night, and it feels to me that many of us will have to leave behind old paradigms, old friendships, leave behind the vestiges of emotions that may be associated with the things that we have lost over the year. I feel like this week we're going to be coming up against some old feelings, especially with the lunar eclipse, solar eclipse season in general, right? Which is activating the north node and the lunar node and the lunar south node, right? So we're going to be accessing our past and our future at the same time. And it feels to me that we're going to go through our past first, and our past is heavy. There are some things that may be coming up, some old thought processes that may be arising that require a certain level of adaptability, grace, and humility. Those are 3 words that come to mind. So, looking at the runes and how they've fallen, it looks... the first word that came to mind was, it looks like a shit show. Excuse me. Forgive me. But it's looking a little wild, actually. So I feel to take a look at these 4 runes that fell on the top here. So we'll go from the center and radiate outwards, as you guys know. But we have here Perthro that fell. I'll show you how it exactly fell, just like this. Normally, Perthro would be upright in this position, reversed in this position, but it felt as if it was dropping something. Because I don't know if you guys can see this, but Perthro is often known as the locked cup. It's known as the place where you would place your die, you shake them, you toss the dice, right? This is where you have your risks. Risks are taken here, right? And it almost feels like with Perthro facing downward like this, it's as if you're casting your lots. You're taking your chance on something. And whatever it is that you're taking your chance on, it's high time that you have done it, right? It's like about time that you did it. And it feels as if you're pouring out your cup. So some of us may be feeling actually emotionally drained this week, or feeling a little bit under the weather. Some of us may be feeling like actually physically under the weather. But this physical manifestation of tiredness may also be linked to our emotional life or our spiritual life. Because again, I tend to enjoy looking at the body holistically, and there is a lot of important narratives or important understandings that we can glean from looking at it through an analytical lens. But holistically, we are able to understand how all the parts of ourselves interact with each other, right? In the large web of our microcosm, a little biome here, right? So there's this tiredness that's associated, I think, with a loss of energy, because we have Urus that has fell on its side, right? So Urus is literally physical strength, physical power, physical energy. So it feels to me that this week we are kind of reaching the finish line of some project, or reaching the finish line of some efforts that we have been putting ourselves towards. Thank you. And your efforts will be realized. The fruits of your labor will come to pass. They will bear fruit, right? but it's almost as if like you made it, but like just drag yourself across the finish line. Just get there, right? Just get there. That's what I keep hearing. Just get there. Whatever that may mean to you, however that may resonate, right? Because again, remember, this is a general reading, so there's a lot of people that are watching. So take it as it resonates. And what I see from this luck cup is that you have tossed your dice. You've risked the roll, is what I hear. And you have to let the dice fall where they may, right? And I see here tiroirs, which has also fallen on its side, but it feels like it's pointing to something, right? Normally when I see it facing a little bit down, right, which would be more Merkstaff position, I would interpret this as a loss of something. Tiroirs is victory, it's strength, it's uprightness, it's justice, right? Especially in legal matters. So when I would see it Merkstaff, oftentimes it could represent a loss of something, a loss of a legal battle, perhaps a loss of some important documents, like as literally like losing them, like losing a passport, for example, or losing something like this. It can represent that kind of loss. But to me, how it's looking from the table, the arrow of tiroirs is pointing towards Uruz and Perthro that has fallen on its side. And what I'm hearing is that it's time to place more emphasis and focus on our feminine energy, on restoring ourselves, on finding deeper balance, on connecting deeper to our intuition, of allowing space for our body to recover, so to speak. This is what I'm hearing. And then we have Manas that has fallen on its side / reverse. It fell in Merkstaff position. Manas in Merkstaff, to me, represents kind of, it represents an inward journey. It represents, for those of you who do tarot, it's connected to the hermit, in my opinion. So Manas in reverse is almost similar to the hermit in reverse, but I'm seeing it in my mind's eye upright. The reason why I say that is because Manas is help from friends, help from family. It literally means mankind. It's connection to our higher self. It's connection to our higher consciousness. But to see it in reverse would represent this hermit energy of going within, of going inward, of a journey that we have to take alone, or a journey that isn't necessarily alone physically, but is a decision that we have to make personally, if that makes sense. There's a distinction between like having friends and family around you who are willing to support you, and then having the will within yourself to make that change happen. So this feels like it's time to focus our energy inward, because this week is asking us to turn within, to get to the edge of night, to reach that finish line, whatever that may be. It feels more spiritual for me, actually. It does. We have one more rune here. Okay, I'm back. I had to restart the camera because it only records for 15 minutes. So now you know. I found that it has to do with some legal law. Legal law. Some commerce law, I should say. So the last rune that we have here, which I'm glad it felt upright, is Ansus. This is good. This is good. Actually, algies. Algies. But Ansus too. Actually, let's talk about that. That's quite interesting. Now I have you for a little bit more time. But let's talk about Ansus, because Ansus came out last week, and Ansus has to do with the message. And I feel like last week, if I remember correctly, it fell in Merkstaff position, it fell reversed, which means many of us were too busy, or were feeling very overwhelmed by the circumstances of life at that time, and we were unable to hear the message. Literally, for some of us, we're unable to see the messages that people were sending us. I feel like, for example, let's say you sent a message to a friend, and the friend didn't get back to you, right? Or let's say your friend sent you a message, and you haven't seen it yet for some reason. I feel like it's that kind of circumstance that came up from busyness and being overwhelmed or working a lot, right? So Ansus coming up in my mind's eye, and of course coming through my words of mouth, right? Instead of the algies that we have here. Ansus to me is like, okay, now you guys, we've received the message. I feel like many of you who are watching, good job. You got the message, you're working on it, you are settling into it, you did the work that you needed to do, so I hope that you are very, very proud of yourselves. I mean that. Like, I hope you are very proud of yourselves. You've done the work, you've listened, you heard the message, you finally got back and you read the thing, right? Like you went back and you said, I wonder if my friend messaged me, and you checked and they did, and you're like, okay, I got this, right? Got it, we're back on track. And it feels like this energy here, it's pointing towards the inner feminine. It's pointing towards our intuition. It's pointing towards recovery. Recovery seems like a big word this week. And we have algae here that fell slightly upright, so it fell more like this, right? And how I interpret that, algae is the rune of protection. I always like to see this rune, especially upright. It means protection. It means boundary making. It means celebration. I often see algae as a connection to our highest self. Similar to manas. Manas is more so connected to our higher intellect. Algae is connected to our higher spiritual self. It's connected to not just the conscious mind, but the super conscious mind. The energy that it exists, that we are connected to, the many souls that, the many lifetimes that we've lived that our soul has access to. Think Akashic records, for those of you who know what those are. So algae is connected to that energy. So it feels to me that towards the end of this week, so I would say feeling more so after Sunday. For some reason, I feel like the next couple of days are going to be this focusing on recovery. And then after Sunday, there's going to be this sudden breath in, this sudden burst of energy, this sudden, I feel connected, I can do this. That's something happened, something shifted. So expect a shift coming on Sunday or Sunday evening. I feel for many of us it'll be Sunday morning, and kind of like I woke up a new person. Or I woke up like a new energy. I woke up with having left behind the things that I no longer needed. So yes, this is what I see for the week ahead. Again, I think the major takeaway for this week is to focus on recovery, to focus on boundary making and maintaining those boundaries, focusing on recovering your physical health, and allowing your emotions to point to the things that you need to pay attention to in your life. And then allowing ourselves to connect to our higher self, to connect to that principle so that we can feel more secure and safe within our boundaries. Because next week it feels like there's going to be a lot more celebrations. It feels like a celebration, especially after Beltane, which I'll probably talk more about that next week. So I hope you enjoyed the reading for this week. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for sharing your time and your space with me. I truly do appreciate it. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe below. Share it with your friends. Tell people to join, to join the little community that we got growing here. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. I would love to hear what you guys have been experiencing this week. If you also have felt this strange heaviness that has just started, and this heaviness that I felt today as well, and let me know how you're feeling. I always like to check the comments. So yeah, I'll see you guys next week here on the channel. Bye everyone.